Okay, Psalm 39. So if you go to Roman numeral 3, Singing the Blues. So we've learned about God's loving kindness, His abiding mercy, His compassion, whatever translation you want to use for that. And now we're going to talk about the God who can be trusted in the darkness. So if you don't have food in your mouth, I want you to help me sing this. Okay, you ready? You'll recognize it when I get started. At the cross, where I first saw the light, and the burden of my heart rolled away. It was there by faith I received my sight, and now I am happy all the day. All right, there's some really good theology in that song. At the cross where I first saw the light, it's a little bit of a like Saul on the road to Damascus image here. And the burden of my heart rolled away. It was there by faith I received my sight. All that's good. I think that's a beautiful description. It's that last line, and now I'm happy all the day. Now, I'm actually going to ask for a show of hands here. How many of you, since the time when you became a believer, you've been happy all day, every day, since that day? Yeah, me either. That's the problematic line, because life can just be really hard. And we can get sick, and it's hard to be happy when you're sick as a dog. And I have a friend at OBU who works at OBU, and her husband has been battling cancer for quite a long time. It feels like a couple of years anyway. And he just can't. It's not one of those where it's cured or it's gone. It's like they keep treating it, and he keeps doing okay. But they had a meeting with the oncologist on Thursday after some tests, and I'm sort of nervous about hearing the report that they got. I've not heard anything since then, but I can see it in her face how difficult this is. And how hard it is to be happy if you're facing something like that in life. And so it can be a loved one who's sick, or it can just be circumstances in the world. I mean, think about if you're a Ukrainian Christian today. There's just so many things that can happen that make life so difficult that happiness is hard to find at the moment. Maybe joy, but just that feeling of happiness is not always going to be ours. So what do you do when you're not happy? What do you do when you're just burdened with some situation or some trial that you're going through? And I think the Psalms provide us a way of expressing even in those times. We can do praise and thanksgiving. There's plenty of Psalms to do that. But what about these other experiences of life? So let me read you a few passages from Psalms. Now we're going to look at a particular Psalm. We're going to look at Psalm 39. But let me read you some other Psalms. I read this one this morning, Psalm 3. O Lord, how my adversaries have increased. Many are rising up against me. It's hard to be happy if that's the situation you're facing. Psalm 22:1, my God, why have you forsaken me? Psalm 31, be gracious to me, O Lord, for I am in distress. My eye is wasted away from grief, my soul and my body also. For my life is spent with sorrow, my years with sighing. My strength has failed because of my sin. My body is wasted away. Because of all my adversaries, I've become a reproach, especially to my neighbors. Those who see me in the street flee from me. I am a dead man. Terror is on every side. You just can't put a happy face on that. Psalm 88, O Lord, the God of my salvation, I have cried out by day and in the night before you. Let my prayer come before you. Incline your ear to my cry, for my soul has had enough troubles, and my life has drawn near to the grave. I am reckoned among those who go down to the pit. I have become like a man without strength, forsaken among the dead, like the slain who lie in the grave, whom you remember no more. O Lord, why do you reject my soul? Why do you hide your face from me? You have removed lover and friend far from me. Darkness is my closest friend. Period. That's the end of that psalm. Now, have you ever felt that low? Have you ever felt that isolated, that alienated, that lonely? And it's not just the Psalms where we find these laments. Jeremiah the prophet, the weeping prophet. If you're a prophet for 40 years and you continually, God's telling you to tell the people that they've sinned, and because they sin, bad things are going to happen to them, you're not going to be the most popular person in the room. And he has his enemies. In Jeremiah 15, here's a little line from it. This is kind of the Kelly perversion of it, but it's close. God, I did everything you asked me to, and now it appears you've just given me constant pain, and you refuse to take it away, and you've proven yourself to be deceitful. Yeah, I know. Ooh. Jeremiah 20. This is all part of Jeremiah's confessions in chapters 11 through 20. Jeremiah 20. God, you've conned me. You made me into a laughingstock. Your word is a cause of ridicule and rejection. Cursed be the day I was born. It would have been better if I died in the womb or my mother murdered than to live this life. That's low. And that sounds like Job. Job, this cursed the day I was born business. Job goes through circumstances that causes him to lament. May the day of my birth perish, and the night that said a boy is conceived. May that night just not even exist, he says. That day that I was born, may it turn to darkness. May God above not care about it. May no light shine on it. Why did I not perish at birth and die as I came from the womb? Or why was I not hidden away in the ground like a stillborn child, like an infant who never saw the light of day? For sighing has become my daily food. My groans pour out like water. What I feared has come upon me. What I dreaded has happened. I have no peace. I have no rest, only turmoil. That's Job chapter 3. So what I'm saying is, what do we do when that's the way we feel? And the pressure is sort of on us to just put on a happy face, to just sing songs of thanksgiving and praise, act like we're okay when maybe we're not. And I don't know how to do it. I've never figured out how to do it. But I wish there was a way for us to sing songs of lament together in certain circumstances. And we don't have many lament songs that we sing together in church. Who wants to sing that kind of song? But sometimes that's how you feel. And when we do, it would be nice if we could together sing a sad song, singing the blues together. Because that's what the psalmist does. So let's look at Psalm 39. Here's a lament. Here's singing the blues. First of all, there's a failed attempt at silence in verses 1 through 3. I said, I will watch my ways, I will keep my tongue from sin, I will put a muzzle on my mouth while in the presence of the wicked. So I remained utterly silent, not even saying anything good. But my anguish increased, my heart grew hot within me. While I meditated, the fire burned, and then I spoke with my tongue. So the psalmist here, and it starts 39, a psalm of David, but we don't know the circumstance. So David says, I was in a terrible predicament. We don't know what it is. Life was really hard. Life was really bad, whatever's going on. But he says, rather than saying to God how I felt, and certainly I wasn't going to say it around the wicked, the people who didn't even have faith in God, I just decided I was going to shut up. I was going to clam up. I wasn't going to say anything. I wasn't going to express my emotions. I was just going to put on a happy face and not say anything about this bad thing in my life or these bad feelings that I was having. And he said, I wasn't going to say it to God, and I certainly wasn't going to complain to others about God and maybe what God was allowing to happen to me. I wasn't going to do that to God. It's sort of like these Godfather mafia things. Whatever you do, you don't betray the family. So he's not going to say something bad about God among the wicked, for sure. But he just decided he's not going to say anything. Now, how do you think that's going to work out? Now, remember the the first psalm we looked at tonight, 32, that was he was silent, but he was silent about his sin. That was a refusal to confess sin. Here, he's refusing to be honest about his feelings, which are not good. So he's just going to repress it, not say anything. But then he said, it's like the pressure was building. Did you hear that language? But my anguish increased, at the end of verse 2. My heart grew hot within me. While I meditated, the fire burned. And then I had to speak. It's like a geyser, like the pressure is building and he's about to blow. And so he's gonna let it out. And when he does, he talks about the fleeting nature of life, verses 4 through 6. Show me, Lord, my life's end and the number of my days. Let me know how fleeting my life is. You've made my days a mere handbreadth. Like you think about how, the length of your hand, how short, that's like my days, or like that long. Short. The span of my years is nothing before you. Everyone is but a... Now I'm interested what your translation has there. Everyone is but a what? A mere breath. Everybody has breath. Vapor. See, this is a Hebrew word, havel, not nearly as great a word as chesed, but it means like vapor, smoke, breath. It's like something that appears and then vanishes, something that's gone quickly, and that's how he thinks about his life. Now, what book of the Old Testament makes that the theme? Ecclesiastes. Vanity of vanities, all is vanity. Life is havel, it's a breath, it's a vapor. It's gone so quickly. And this word's kind of hard to translate. That's why you see things like breath or smoke or vapor. And so I know I've told you this before, but you would have forgotten it. But I have a translation for that word, and I probably did this when I did James years ago, so you definitely forgotten that. That's been years ago. But my English translation for this word is P-H-H-H-H-H-H-H-H-T. Do you know this word? That's it. That's the best translation I know. That's what life is. Life is... It's like that. I mean, this is a real sort of bad attitude about life you hear in this one, right? That my life is fleeting. The span of my years is as nothing. Everyone is but a even those who seem secure. Surely everyone goes around like a mere phantom, and here's this word again, as a passing breath. They're heaping up wealth without knowing whose it will be. Now here, I bet your translation's doing all kinds of funny stuff, but in vain they rush about. You have a translation like that. That's this word again. The in vain word is this word. So I'm trying to translate it a little more clearly so you can hear it. As a passing breath would be a way to say that. They're heaping up wealth without knowing whose it will be. Now you talk about a bad attitude. That's what he said, I finally figured out now. Life is short, so I'm working and I'm building up this 401k, and I don't even know who's going to end up spending it. But life's so short, it's not going to be me. Or maybe it's here'd be my take on it. I've worked so hard to keep myself in the best shape I can. I get out in the cold and run. I get out in the heat and run. And I just do everything I can to keep myself as healthy as I can. And I'll likely live, as a result of that, 3 or 4 months longer than the same me who didn't do any of that exercise and ate everything they wanted. And I'll probably live those extra 4 months in the nursing home. How about that? Doesn't that sound like a kind of a curmudgeonly bad attitude? That just like what he's expressing here. That's what the whole book of Ecclesiastes sounds like, just like that. So here, I'm building up my 401k, and now it's just going to go to my kids, and who knows what they'll do with it. I'll live 4 extra months because I turned away the dessert tray all my life, and I'll live that in a nursing home. Life's just... So that's his lament. But then he comes to this realization, but now, Lord, what do I look for? My hope is in you. So he might not have much hope, but whatever hope he has at this moment in time, he realizes my hope is in you. Save me from all my transgressions. Do not make me the scorn of fools. I was silent. I wouldn't open my mouth. He's back to the time when he just wasn't going to say anything. For you're the one who's done this. Talking about God. Remove your scourge from me. I am overcome by the blow of your hand. When you rebuke and discipline anyone for their sin, you consume their wealth like a moth. Surely everyone is but a... 3 times he uses that word in this psalm. Life can be regretfully short and unbearably difficult. And I feel like I'm at 57. I told you I just turned 57. And I just don't know where it's gone. I mean, honestly. I look back, I've been at OBU for 25 years, Cammie. 25 years. 25 years. I ran into I was on campus, we had some prospective students there yesterday, and I did a mock class and then did a thing where they can come by the table and talk to you. And as I was walking out, there was a group that I hadn't seen, and they were like doing a tour. So I stopped and said hello, and I told them I'm Dr. Kelly, and somebody asked, how long have you been here? And they were expecting like 10 years maybe. And I said, 25 years. And one of those parents, eyes got big, 25 years? And I'm like, yeah, 25 years. I guess that is a long time. I walked away like this. She looked so shocked that anybody would be anywhere for 25 years. Yeah, that is a long time. But life can just be so and difficult and whatever, even though it's short, it can be difficult. But here's the funny thing about that. At the same time, it can be amazingly and mysteriously wonderful. Even though it feels so short and it can be hard, at the same time, it's possible to find such great joy. And it's that tension that we live in. And this is expressing the dark side of that, when we feel like there's no hope and life is short, and that curmudgeonly feeling like, well, I'm just put away all this money, now my kids are going to spend it, probably on things I wish they wouldn't do. In verse 12, here's his final demand. Hear my prayer, Lord, listen to my cry, don't be deaf to my weeping. I dwell with you as an immigrant, a refugee, as all my ancestors were. And that's an interesting way to think about his relationship to God. He says, I'm like an immigrant with respect. I feel like an immigrant with you, like a stranger, like someone who doesn't have a place. And that's a good image to talk about a Christian in the world. The New Testament does that. The book of Hebrews does that. 1 Peter does that. In fact, 1 Peter 1:1 is like the elect, to the elect refugees. And then later he says in like 1:17 something about the time of your immigration in 1 Peter. So that image of we are immigrants and refugees in this world, which is not our home, and where our ultimate citizenship is in heaven, that's why we're immigrants and refugees in this world. That's a good image about who we are in the world, not to get too wedded to this present world, because our citizenship is in heaven. But that's not what he's saying here. He's not saying I'm an immigrant in this world. He's saying I feel like an immigrant in my relationship to you. I dwell with you as an immigrant, a refugee. Look away from me that I may enjoy life again before I depart and am no more. That's the opposite of what we normally ask God. Like the blessing is that God turn his face towards you. That's the blessing. That God smile upon you. That's what you hope for. here this psalmist is going through such a situation, and he's somehow holding God responsible. He feels like God's somehow doing this to him, or at least God could bail him out of it, and he's not. So he says, look away from me so that at least in what little time I have left, I might find some joy in life. That's a really bad attitude. So if you want to ask me, should you feel that way? No. Should you tell God to take a hike? Absolutely not. Unless that's how you feel, and then you should say that to God. That's what the psalmist does. It's okay, I promise you. God's a big boy. He's heard it all. And you can't hide those feelings. I mean, you can try, but God knows. So you might as well just express it. And I think that's finally the way to get around to something of praise. That's the way to get out of the pit and into a place where you can actually give praise to God again. So I'll just finish it. You remember this morning I read you Psalm 137 in the first session this morning, the Sunday school hour, where blessed are those who bash the babies' heads against the rocks. That's another bad attitude ending, right? That's even worse than look away so I can find some joy. But think about what the Psalms teach us. That in these limit experiences in life, when you're pushed to the limit. Now that shouldn't be your daily communication with God. I hope your life's not like that every day where you're lamenting and shaking your fist at God. It shouldn't be like that. But we live in a fallen world where disease and sickness and aggression that causes people to invade other countries and pandemics and all these things happen. And your life's often going to be difficult, and what do you do when it is? Can you still pray? Yes, you can pray. Do you have to falsify those prayers and put a happy face and say things that you don't really mean when you pray? No. I think that just delays the getting back to something of joy. So I think about in dealing with, and asking for revenge on your enemies. Bashing babies' heads against the rocks or punch my enemy in the jaw. These are limit experiences where you're pushed to the limit. That's what I mean by limit experience. Where you just push to the limit and you just can't find any way out. So you're raging at God. I hope that doesn't happen very often in your life, but when it does, what's your alternative? To just repress those feelings, press them down, try to act like they're not there? You know what will finally happen if you do that? What did the psalmist say there when he tried to just not say anything, press it down? It was rising up. I could feel the pressure building. And then finally I had to just let it go. It's like that when you want revenge. You could just act like it's not there, like you don't feel that way, but man, those are strong emotions. You got to do something with those emotions. You could go get a gun or a knife or hire a hitman or do something like that to get revenge. I would not advise that. You definitely shouldn't do that. So what do you do when you're feeling that depth of emotion? Say it to God. Tell God how you feel. If you want revenge, tell God to get your revenge. And then leave it with Him. And I probably told you this because it's one of those moments where the light comes on, but in my own experience with my own kids, they're 5 years apart. And they don't fight anymore. My older son was really hard on my younger son. Was kind of mean to him. 5 years apart. It was just the wrong age, So the younger one just agitated the older one. And I get it. And the younger one wanted to be buddies with the older one, but that 5-year gap was just at certain like 9 and 4, 10 and 5, 11 and 6. It just wasn't happening. Well, now the 21-year-old really wants to be buddies with the 16-year-old. And the 16-year-old's not that interested right now. But when they were in that range where, you know, they were playing together and stuff, and they'd often get into it, especially if it was involving competition of any kind. And Levi would always take the worst of it. So he'd come back a little, not hurt bad. Luke never like punched him hard or anything, but occasionally maybe a little bloodied knees or elbows where he'd pushed him down on the concrete. Or we had some kids over one night, OBU students, and we were just playing like touch football in the backyard. And Levi was really showing off, just a little kid, you know, out there really looking like he could play. And probably Luke feeling like his little brother was showing him up a little bit. So Levi's sprinting down the sidelines. They'd thrown him, you know, one of these college students had thrown him a pass. And Levi's probably 6 years old, sprinting down what was the sideline, you know, towards the end zone, which was about that deep. And then there was the fence. And Luke is trying to get to him. And Levi gets just about at the end of where the fence is there. And Luke gets to him and just pushes him like that. And Levi just went smack face into the fence. It wasn't barbed wire, luckily, but it was enough to get cut. He had a little cut. His nose was bleeding, and he's screaming and crying. And now these OBU students are there, which, you know, makes it just worse because now he's embarrassed by it too. And he comes over there to me and he says, I hate him. I hate him. I hate him. And he's starting to tell me all the things I should do to him. And, you know, he's got a list of punishments that should come. And that wasn't the first time that he'd been upset like that. And my first instinct was to say, now, Levi, stop. You can't talk like that about your brother. But I'd tried that before, and that didn't seem to work very well. Now, I never did this, but the other wrong thing would be to just say, okay, slow down, Levi. Let me get all this down. Now, tell me again what you want me to do. No, that's not a good way either. But just let him say it all. Just let him cry it all out, say it all out. And when he's just wrung it all out, you say, okay, Levi, now I'll take care of it. And if he trusts me, then that'll be enough. And that usually was. In fact, that just about always resolved the situation. Now, Luke would be punished if he'd done something. Maybe not the way Levi wanted him to be punished, but, you know. And I think that's exactly what we're seeing here. You can pour it out to God. You can say it to God. Who else are you going to say it to? And then leave it with God. When you face these limit experiences where you just don't know what to say, what to do, you can say it to God. And it is freeing to feel like I can be honest to God. Honest to God. And I think that's what the Psalms teach us about. Because life's going to involve a lot of moments like that. Skinned up, beat up, bleeding. What do you do? And you can sing the blues to God. Well, that's it. I'm done. Pretty close, 7:07. It still looks sunny out there. Okay. So we got 1 hour left on Wednesday night. So we're going to go on to the fourth Roman numeral, the fourth one. We're going to look at praise. We're done with laments. We're done with confessing sin. We're just going to do praise on Wednesday night. Those last 5 Psalms, 146 to 150, that's what we'll do on Wednesday night. So I will dismiss us with a prayer. Owen, you want to say something? You want me to? All me. Is Owen always this funny? Is he funny like that? Like sermons? Is he that funny? It's my man. All right. Well, thanks again for the invitation this year, Owen. I always enjoy coming over, and good to see everybody again, and I'll look for you on Wednesday night. What is it? It was just like, I don't know, it's like a vinyl fence, but it was enough for a 6-year-old when he hit it because his brother pushed him into it. So he had a little cut, to tell you the rest of the story. He had a cut there that looked like it might need a stitch or two, but we lived across the street from his doctor. And so we went and knocked on his doctor's door, and he had this stuff that he just kept with him, so he glued it, which didn't involve any like actual stitches, and that holds it together, and there's nothing to remove or anything, and so it was all good. That was good having the doctor next door. There's always more to the story if you want to know. All right, I'm going to dismiss us here. Now may the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord turn his face towards you and give you peace. Amen.